Hello, welcome to another coffee break with Kardec, our weekly coffee together, and time for us to discuss about the book Genesis, where we usually discuss some aspects of the book and enjoy our coffee, our tea, or our hot chocolate during these approximately 15 minutes that we have. And today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is the destruction of living beings by one another. This is at the very end of chapter 3 in Genesis, and the chapter is about good and evil. And I think it's a very up-to-date topic, because I think we constantly have to analyze our behavior as individuals and also in the collective way as human beings living on Earth. And it's interesting because Kardec points to us. I remember when I was a child, my father used to like to enjoy those programs about nature on TV. And the one thing that shocked me, and I think most children, was the fact that some animals, big ones, they would hunt and eat smaller animals. I at the time I used to think that to be sort of unfair, and why nature did need that kind of a way, sometimes very, very shocking, to provide food in this long food chain. But then later we start to analyze from different perspectives. We see, that there is a chain in life, and that is somehow necessary. But still, from the moral point of view, I used to have some difficulty to understand why not a different process. And it's very interesting that Kardec, he talks about this very same aspect, and he puts some things for us here. First, that the mutual destruction is a part of natural law. And these natural laws, of course, they apply from the mineral kingdom up to the animal kingdom. So it's part of life. It's part of this constant movement, renewal of the material world. It is moving, it is changing incessantly. So it's something that is part of it. If we see an animal eating a plant, we don't get that shocked, but the plant is still a living being. But when it gets closer and closer to us, more developed animals in the mammal kingdom, animals that are very close to us in several aspects, we then think, oh, it is a bit shocking to see that this kind of a behavior is still necessary. Then we question God. Oh, is it really perfect, the creation? Why is it necessary that this kind of thing happens? And then Kardec points us that, we are only analyzing this from a material point of view. And when we look at just the material point of view, certain things won't make much sense. Whereas if we still looking from the material point of view, we see the evolution of the universe, and then the creation of our planet, how long it took, how many process of destruction and recreation the planet went through. And that was over a long period of time. And then when we see that the matter is constantly changing, renewing, I'll just bring an example here, something slightly different, but it is still an example. When the universe was created, it was necessary to go through the creation of certain stars. And then it was necessary the destruction of those stars for us to have heavier elements in our, if you look at the periodic table, we have about 118 elements. But only few elements were created at the very beginning. Initially it was hydrogen and then helium. And then we got to a point where the stars had the condition to produce up to iron, carbon iron. But we know that there is much more than that, heavier elements. And how, how was it possible then? Then it was necessary for the stars to go through a whole cycle of life and then explode. And then from this explosion, we would get a new process that would give us heavier elements. Then the world as we know exists because we have all those elements. Otherwise, it would be different. It wouldn't be this way, but a different way. So we see that there is this constant need of creation and destruction. That's how evolution takes place. So we should look at this process in the animal kingdom the same way. We're talking about the material envelope, and we should see that the intelligent principle resides everywhere in the creation. It resides there in different conditions, in different stages of evolution, but it is in all kingdoms. It is everywhere, as it's normally said within Spiritism. From the atom to the archangel, the Spiritist principle is there in constant evolution. It is in different conditions depending on the level of evolution, but the spiritual principle is always there. So Kardec calls our attention to the fact that when we see, well, perhaps, God is not that just, creation is not that perfect, because we see a lion eating a smaller animal after hunting the animal, and we see, oh, poor animal. But we forget that we are talking just about the material aspect. And then it is a kind of short-sightedness, because we're not taking into consideration that these processes are necessary for the spiritual element. I'm not talking about spirits as we are now, but the spiritual element, the essence of the spirits, to be developed. This is just like, as Kardec puts, just changing garments. So the material aspect of life is just a garment. It is important, it is necessary, but our attention should be actually driven away from simply the material aspect of life, because the most important one is the one that most of us are not aware of, or the one to pay that enough attention to, which is the spiritual one. But then we would see, well, so it's justifiable then for one person to kill another. Then we'll see it in a bit. We'll see that we are constantly progressing. And perhaps what is natural within the animal kingdom, perhaps is no longer natural in humankind, because as humans, we've reached a level of evolution, intellectual terms, in moral terms, where certain things are no longer accepted. Otherwise, we show our primitive essence is still very much in us. So we should actually think in terms of the spiritual principle, and that life here, the physical life, is always a process of constant change. And that each time we go through a cycle where we get this new garment, we spend some time in the physical world, and then for one reason or another, we leave this garment behind. We come out stronger, we come out more lucid, we come out more capable. Not just us as human, I'm talking about the intelligent principle as such. How is it possible for the intelligent principle to evolve? Just wait for time to, go on and then naturally it evolves. No, it has to undergo several processes. Just as like it's necessary for a tulip to bloom in spring, to go through the cold, below zero, below freezing temperatures in winter. So we see that it's a constant process going through different situations that then promote the intelligent principle into a new category. That's how evolution takes place. And we, at the level that we are, and I say we humans and all life around us here on the planet, it is still very much we're still very much attached to the material aspect of our evolution. So our experiences are still very much material, but we shouldn't be attached to them. We should actually move forward, because slowly our experiences will become more intellectual, moral, and less physical. But still, we are in this process. And I would compare to a candle. When we light a candle in a dark room, that light, for that light to actually be spread in the room, diminishing the darkness in the room, the candle has to be burnt. So the candle has to burn itself to shed light around itself. And it's more or less like that in regard to our physical body. We have to go through the experiences. We have to look after the physical body as the instrument for the development of the intelligent principle in us. But our essence is not the physical body. It's not in the physical body. It's just like tools that we use to learn skills. Once we've learned, the skills are in us and no longer in the tools. So we can have a measure, how evolved we are by the way that we look at God's creation. Because if we think that there's no wisdom in the fact that the animals need to nourish themselves from other animals to evolve at the stage that they are, we then are looking from a limited perspective. When we look at a full perspective, we see things in a different way. So the more we think that the creation is imperfect in this sense, the little evolved we see that we are. So we should always remember that the lenses that we should use are that God must be infinitely just and wise. We've seen in in a previous coffee break, the attributes of God. So we should always use them to analyze the situations and not trusting what we think is right, what we think is wrong. So what is the purpose of this destruction that we see? Animals eating plants, animals eating animals, and this constant renewal. We see that there is a physical aspect in this, which is the renewal of the through the elements of transformation. The nourishment that is necessary is matter exchanging constantly. We see in biology, in chemistry, all these chains, the cycles, the material cycles here on Earth, and there are many. So we see this is necessary for renewal, for progress to take place either in the material side or in the physical side, or both. We need this constant renewal. There wouldn't be spiritual progress and material progress as well if things remained stagnant forever. So they have to renew. In this renewal, they have the opportunity to come out better. And the moral one, the evolution of the spirit. We talk about the evolution of the spirit constantly. So how does it take place? It takes place going through different experiences. And the experiences that we need at our level now, which is not that much developed, we are not too much far away from instinct, from animal kingdom. So we still need a lot of experiences in material terms. And then it develops our moral sense, not only in us, but also in the animal kingdom. The spiritual principle that is being constantly developed. Can you imagine a lion chasing a deer or changing tactics, actually, to get to his prey? What is it doing? It's developing the astuteness, the intelligence, and the other is also developing the way to escape from the predator. In this constant game, as it were, both are developing the intelligent principle, and the physical body is just an instrument for that. The spiritual principle will survive as many times as necessary this passage here in the physical world. But what about us humans? We humans, we are far, I hope, far enough to see that these things are no longer necessary from us. So in the early stages, we have instincts. And then later on, the animal instincts, they are actually changing into moral sentiment to counterbalance this animal instinct. So in case of us humans, slowly as we develop morally and intellectually, should develop our sensitivity, and sensitivity should take over. So destruction should decrease and should even disappear, becoming something for us that is, something that we really don't want, we reject, we feel even sick when we see humans killing humans and destroying. And I'm talking about destruction in general. So as we acquire knowledge and experience, we should rid ourselves from these elements of animality, because this destruction is in the animal kingdom. It's an animal needing to eat and not destroying by the sake of destroying. So we got to a point that we can avoid that destruction of our fellow humans for the sake of destruction, and we should actually move into a phase. However, struggle, difficulties are still here, and they will still remain for a long time, because the struggles that we need now are no longer should be no longer physical. They should be mental, moral struggle. And if there is a need for physical struggle, it should come from nature, for natural processes or consequences of our actions upon nature, and not human beings inflicting pain in human beings. And that's why I want to end with that. That's why Moses received the 10 Commandments that long ago. And then 2,000 years ago, approximately, Jesus told us. Oh, if you allow me, I'll read that. Woe to the world because of scandals, for it is necessary that scandals come, but woe comes. So Jesus is very clear. It is no longer necessary for humans to inflict pain in humans. Because if it's necessary, and it is necessary, nature will find its way to bring. Humans should get together to try to find and diminish the pain caused by nature and by ourselves. I hope I made it clear, and you've enjoyed your coffee or tea and your hot chocolate. So see you in our next coffee break with Kardec.